Hey guys, Josh here at REK. I wanted to do a video of a new folder that I have designed and begun making, and I've designated it the Sparrow. So you'll notice kind of two different builds right here. And so I'm going to go over that. But first of all, what I'm doing with this is basically I'm going to have a plain Jane version, kind of lower cost to put it in more people's hands. Then I'm going to have a more customized version, which I'll designate the Maker's Choice. What the Maker's Choice will be is this will allow me to be able to kind of like customize each individual one that I make if I want to, you know, with different grinds or different finishes or different textures on the scales and that kind of thing, different color combos and all that. And then so that'll allow me just kind of some artistic freedom. I think everybody benefits the most probably when the maker's having fun and just kind of exercising creativity, just doing some fun builds. So looking forward to that. And what I'm going to do to be able to handle sales is I'm going to basically send out a newsletter with pictures and maybe video and everything. And whoever's interested at that point for that specific build will be able to enter into a random drawing to have an opportunity to purchase one. That's just the easiest way, most fair way that I could come up with to allow everybody a shot. So it's not just first come, first serve and somebody snatches it before anybody else gets a chance. So what I'm going to talk about is basically the similarities between both of these and then the differences. All right. So we'll start off with talking about the construction before I start talking about the design aspects. Both of these are slightly CNC'd, and then after that completely hand built, tuned, and everything. So the parts that I had CNC'd on these, and again, this is all the models of the Sparrow, is the 2D outline along with, let's see if I can get it. I've got, you'll notice some weight reduction pockets on the inside of the frame there. So, and then also I've got a lock insert. And then I've got a pretty cool lanyard hole area back here incorporated into the back spacer. So those things did have to be CNC'd. However, you know, because that was the only way for me to get those features that I wanted into the Sparrow. So, however, the rest of it, everything else is done completely by hand by me. So all the sculpting, all the shaping, all the chamfers, the clip is actually, I completely make all that by hand. You know, the grind, the lockup, the detent, even the lock bar relief area, all that is done by, even the jimping there, it's all done by me. So let's see if I can get this to focus a little bit better here. There we go. So yeah, so now we'll talk a little bit about the, another thing that I want to talk about in both of these is the laser etching. So all of them on the tang hidden, it has a, so you know, it's not visible unless you disassemble the knife, but it has a serial number on each one that kind of wraps around the washer area. And then you'll notice, you probably noticed where I've got the steel type, the M390 there, on the flipper tab, which is revealed in the closed position, kind of follows the outline of the scale there, but is hidden in the open position. So you just don't have much writing and billboarding and everything. Even the logo right there, excuse me, I completely, I chose that location because in the closed position, it sits right in the recess for the lock bar relief. So I just thought that was kind of a neat placement there and would work the best. All right, so now that we kind of talked about the construction of these, we'll talk about the design aspects. And so what, I guess I'll start with the blade and then kind of work my way back to the tail end of the folder here. Then I'll talk about, lastly, I'll talk kind of about the differences between the two builds here. So we'll talk about the jimping first. On front flippers, you want the jimping to be grippy, but you want it to kind of be soft and non-abrasive. So you don't want it tearing up your thumb because you're using, a lot of times you're using like the side of your thumb or the side of your finger, and that kind of thing. You just don't want it to tear it up. You want it to have a nice chamfer there, which you'll see I've got in some just really nice fine jimping there. You don't want, you know, big scallops or anything like that, or anything that's going to be sharp. So that's part of making a front flipper work well, but also having the right location for it, along with, you'll see how the blade kind of sits a little proud of that front corner right there of the frame. And the reason for that is because when you're opening it, you want your thumb to kind of just be able to roll over the top. You don't want to be creating a hot spot where you're constantly nicking the side of your thumb on the edge of the frame right there. So so that was very, you know, purposely thought out and built that way. Now moving back to the stop pin and pivot area, you'll notice I've got a hidden stop pin on this. The reason for that is because I've noticed on a lot of folders, the choil area right here kind of doubles as the stop pin contact area in the closed position. But what ends up happening is as you sharpen repeatedly and your edge starts moving towards the spine, you end up recessing back past that stop pin contact area, and you can develop detent play in the closed position, which you don't want. So the way that I've designed this gives you the most blade life that you can get out of a blade. Basically, you can just keep receding it as much as you need to without, you know, I mean, through use, you know, you wouldn't want to purposely waste metal, but yeah, it's not going to ever cause any issues with the stop pin contact area. Now, these are running on phosphor bronze washers. All of the Sparrows at this point are. I may at some point incorporate maybe like some skiff bearings or something like that, you know, once in a while, but all that'll be disclosed when that happens. And so one of the interesting things that I did on the pivot area is it's kind of like a hybrid bushing type thing. So the pivot barrel is hardened steel, and it basically bottoms out on the underneath side of the screw, so you can kind of tighten it down to where the screw just starts to touch the barrel, and then, you know, you're pretty good. You might have a little bit of adjustment you have to do, and I would still recommend, you know, probably using Loctite, but you can you know, check and see how you like the tension, because unlike bearing folders that, you know, on those, if you tighten down, they still have you know, they're just still free falling. This allows you to kind of adjust it however you want to, as far as, you know, the action and the way that the blade opens and everything. So, and the action and all. So one of the things I did on the pivot is I incorporated a detent ball underneath the head that sits into a recess in the pocket, and that basically locks in the female nut side of the pivot. And then this screw is the one that you'll screw in and out. And moving on down to the lock insert, I've got a hardened steel lock insert in here, and one of the things that I did on it was I incorporated the detent ball close to the lock face. And what that does is, on a lot of folders, you kind of start to close, and then you feel this like big bump where the detent ball hits, and then you got to, like, you know, overcome it. And it's just, you know, it's not as smooth as it really could be. So by me incorporating the detent ball so close to the lock face, it doesn't compromise the lock or anything like that. It's a very solid lockup. But what it does is it allows you, as soon as you start closing this, you're already past that point, past the point where the detent ball contacts the tang. And I'll show you that point right here. So as you start to close it, it's just like, bam, you're right there. So as soon as you start to close it, you're already past that point, and then the blade just, you know, falls shut. So this is one thing we did with the detent ball. And the detent ball is ceramic. I wanted to go with that for longevity, because steel on steel will wear, but the ceramic basically lasts forever. Yeah, and let's see here. All right, so we'll talk a little bit more about the lock bar. One of the important things on a front flipper, especially due to the way that you open everything, is you want the detent, how it meets up with the blade tang and the tang hole, basically the detent retention. You want that along with the lock bar tension to be dialed in perfectly. So that way you don't have any you know, like where the detent ball gets stuck down in the hole and you can't open it because it's really sticky and everything, or anything like that. Like, you want it to be able to open the same way every time. And so basically there's two of those things that go into, that's two of the things that go into the action and the way that the blade opens and how snappy it is and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it opens the same way every time, even if you do have a little bit of tension on the lock bar. It's not a problem. And I, you know, spent a lot of time with the Proto and my product tester and everything, really getting that dialed in. And so I'm very pleased with how that turned out. Now, as we move down to the clip, one of the things that's interesting about this is you'll notice I kind of incorporated the detent nub, but it's asymmetrical, so it sits off center, along with the pocket clip kind of being at a little bit of a cant. So what that does is that allows you don't ever put any extra tension on the lock bar, just to kind of help to try to avoid that. And, you know, going in and out of the pocket, you also don't want your pocket to snag on the lock bar relief area here. So we've got that nub far enough away where it never causes any issues whatsoever, and is very smooth going in and out of the pocket. The perfect tension on the spring, the springiness of the clip, yet it still retains nicely. And part of that is just due to the way that, you know, I set up the way that all the tolerances and thicknesses and everything work in this. You know, it works really well. Now, I put a few scallops right here because this, along with the recess for the lock bar being on the outside of the scales, actually gives you a really good point to kind of index, you know, like your ring finger in different positions, and a little bit of grip right there, you know, on the clip itself. Clips are very important on front flippers because that's what you grab onto most of the time when you're going to open the blade, so your fingers don't get in the way. So, so that was a very important consideration. Now, on the clip, one thing on a lot of clips that I noticed is that if you force it right here on the tip, it'll slide side to side, and it's just kind of annoying, and plus it just kind of scratches up your scales. What I did on these is I'm incorporating a couple detent balls in the recess for the clip right here on the frame, and that allows that to mate up perfectly so it's rock solid. You don't ever have any movement out here at the tip. So that was one thing that I wanted. I really wanted a nice, solid, smooth feel to this folder. Now, on the lanyard hole, you'll see that right here. I kind of did a recessed hidden lanyard hole, which is pretty neat. It's unobtrusive and not really noticeable. And one of the nice things about it is when you incorporate a lanyard right here, it never really, like, you know, swings up in front of your, you know, blade and gets in the way because of the way the pocket's designed right there. It just keeps it kind of down here and out of the way. So yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the design goes. I'm sure I'm overlooking a couple things, but yeah, I did want to go over that. And, you know, like I was saying, the detent lock bar and everything is really important when you start talking about, you know, different opening methods. You know, you just got a lot of different ways that you could open this. You know, even doing something like a reverse, like ring finger open. See if I can get this. You know, you just got a lot of different ways that you can open these things, and they're a lot of fun. So, and also, you don't have any thumb stud that gets in the way of the cutting path either. So it's just a real nice, clean, simple design. So I'll talk a little bit about the custom. Sorry, I know this video is going on a little longer, but, or I'm sorry, not the custom, but the Maker's Choice. What I'm going to do with this is, and this is on this specific build, is that, well, I'll talk about what I did on this build, but I'm going to be, you know, like I said, changing it up probably on every different build a little bit. But I've got an 800 grit satin finish here on the blade, hand rubbed. And then I did like a sculpted pattern on the scales and gave it a working finish stone wash over top because I figured that would pop, that would make the blue on the hardware pop nicely, which I think turned out really well. I also kind of satin finish the outside of this clip here so it matches the blade nicely for a nice accent, and then also this back spacer. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. I wanted to just kind of go over some of those, the different aspects of the basic model and Maker's Choice, and let you guys kind of check them out, check out the action and everything. I know I always like seeing videos of that, So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and make sure, if you're not already, sign up for the newsletter to be notified when these things are released as they're built. Thanks so much, guys.